What if I told you that the most powerful act you will ever perform in your life is not remembering, but forgetting? What if the very thing that stands between you and the truth you have been searching for is not ignorance, but memory? This may sound strange. We are taught from childhood that memory is sacred. We are told that the more we remember, the wiser we become. We hold on to names, to stories, to wounds, to victories, as if they are treasures locked in the chest of our minds. But Rumi whispered another secret. To remember who you truly are, you must first forget who you believe yourself to be. Pause for a moment and feel how heavy your memories are. Think of the story you tell yourself when you look in the mirror, the roles you play, the failures you revisit when the night is silent, the victories you polish so they keep shining for the world. These are not just memories, they are cages. Each memory is a thread, and together they weave a mask you wear so tightly that you forget the face beneath. Rumi once said, "Be like a sheet of paper with nothing on it." At first, this sounds frightening. Who wants to be blank? Who wants to lose their story? Yet imagine the freedom of starting again with no past to chain you, no name to defend, no label to protect. Imagine walking into the day not as the sum of your history, but as a clear sky waiting for light. This is the art of forgetting. It is not an escape from life. It is the key that opens life. To forget is to loosen your grip on what was never permanent. It is to drop the heavy suitcase of old identities so your hands are free to hold the beloved. We live in a culture that worships remembering. We record everything, photograph everything, repeat everything, as if to lose a moment is to lose ourselves. But notice how clinging to memory makes the present blur. Notice how fear of forgetting keeps you from actually living. You are so busy holding the past in your fists that you do not see the rose blooming beside you. Rumi tells us that forgetting is not weakness, it is courage. It is the fire that burns the masks. When you forget who you thought you were, you make space for who you really are. And who you are is not small, not fragile, not broken. Who you are is the breath of the universe moving through human skin. Think of the times when life forced you to forget. The breakup that made you forget your old idea of love. The loss that made you forget your illusions of control. The failure that made you forget your false pride. In those moments, forgetting felt like death. But after death came life, a deeper life, a clearer life, a life less crowded with illusions. To Rumi, forgetting was not destruction. It was alchemy. Just as gold must lose its dross in the fire, the soul must lose its memories of falsehood in order to shine. Forgetting is the sacred fire. It burns not to punish, but to reveal. It strips away what was borrowed, what was learned, what was imposed, until only what is eternal remains. And here is the paradox. The more you forget, the more you actually remember. Not the memories of events and names and dates, but the memory of the soul, the memory of belonging, the memory of being one with the beloved before time began. This is the memory that does not live in the mind, but in the heart. It cannot be written in books or stored in devices. It is older than language, older than history, older than the stars. So this is where our journey begins, with a question that sounds like a riddle. Can you forget in order to remember? Can you let go of the story of who you are so you can meet the truth of who you have always been? Every human being begins life nameless. When you were born, you had no label. You had no history. You had no mask. You were pure awareness wrapped in skin. But almost immediately, the world placed a name upon you. That name was spoken again and again until it became a wall. It became the first stone in the house of your false identity. Rumi warned us about the trap of names. He said, "Do not get too comfortable with who you think you are, because who you think you are is only a story told by others and repeated by your own mind." Names are useful in the marketplace, yes. They help us find one another. But when names become our truth, they become prisons. You are not your name. You are not your job title. You are not the image on your passport. These are temporary costumes worn by something eternal. Think of how many times you have been hurt because of a name. Someone insulted your name and you felt pain. Someone forgot your name and you felt invisible. Someone misused your name and you felt betrayed. But none of these wounds touched your real self. They only struck the mask. And yet we carry this mask as if it were our heart. Rumi urged us to forget the mask so we can meet the face beneath. He compared the self to snow melting in the sun. Snow clings to form, but as it melts, it returns to water, and water knows no boundary. In the same way, when you forget the rigid name you defend, you return to the flow of being. This forgetting is not easy. The ego will resist. The ego is built of names. It whispers, "Without a name, you are nothing." But the truth is the opposite. Without a name, you are everything. You are not bound to a single role or a single story. You are free to be vast. Imagine walking into a room and leaving your name outside the door. Imagine no one knowing your past, your status, your failures, or your victories. Who would you be then? What would remain if all labels dissolved? That raw presence is the beginning of truth. We all long for this freedom, even if we do not realize it. That is why children laugh so easily. They have not yet grown heavy with names. That is why lovers in their first embrace forget the world. For a moment, they lose their labels and simply exist as presence. That is why mystics disappear into silence, because silence has no use for names. Rumi said there is a voice that does not use words. Listen. That voice is your essence, the part of you that existed before your name and will remain after your name is forgotten. The world may carve letters into stone, but stone will crumble. The essence does not. This is why forgetting names is the first step toward remembering the soul. You do not need to erase your name from paper. You only need to loosen your grip on it. To stop believing that the sound people call you is the sum of your existence. Forgetting is an act of courage. It is a quiet rebellion against the world that insists you must be defined. It is a return to the nameless beginning. And in that return lies a power greater than any title could offer. So let us begin here, with the courage to forget the name, with the willingness to look beyond the mask, with the trust that what remains will not be empty, but whole. From the moment we learn to speak, we also learn to claim. This is mine. That is yours. My house, my clothes, my body, my time. We cling to possessions as if they are anchors, believing that what we own defines who we are. Yet Rumi told us another truth. What you think you own is only borrowing. Nothing belongs to you, not even your breath. Look closely at the things you call yours. The shoes on your feet will one day wear out. The keys in your pocket will one day fall into another hand. Even the body you polish and protect will one day return to dust. Still, the mind insists, these things are me. They prove my worth. They give me identity. But this is illusion. The more you cling to possessions, the heavier you become. You build a fortress of objects only to find yourself locked inside. Rumi compared the soul to a bird trapped in a cage. The bars are not iron, they are the attachments we refuse to forget. We polish the bars until they shine, but the bird still cannot fly. To free the bird is not to destroy the cage, but to open it. Forgetting possessions is opening the door. This does not mean rejecting life or running to the desert with empty hands. It means remembering that nothing you touch will stay. To forget possessions is to hold them lightly, to use them with gratitude but never mistake them for your essence. Think of the last time you lost something important, perhaps money, perhaps an object, perhaps even a home. In the moment, the loss felt unbearable. Yet after the grief passed, a strange freedom appeared. You realized you could live without it. You realized you were still you. That discovery is the gift of forgetting possessions. We fear forgetting because we confuse it with erasing. But to forget is not to destroy. It is to release. It is to let go of the lie that you are what you own. Rumi once wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart. Just as leaves fall from the tree each autumn, possessions fall from your life when their season ends. The tree does not grieve the leaves. It knows spring will come again. In the same way, the soul must learn to let go, to forget what has passed, to trust that what is real cannot be lost. Every possession is a teacher. It teaches you impermanence. Every loss is a guide. It guides you back to what cannot be taken. The beloved is not found in gold or in walls of stone. The beloved is the breath that remains when all else falls away." So look again at your life. Look at the objects around you. Ask yourself, if all of this vanished today, who would I be? If the answer is silence, then you are close to the truth. Forgetting possessions is not poverty. It is wealth of another kind. It is the wealth of knowing that nothing external can add or subtract from your essence. It is freedom from chains disguised as treasures. It is stepping into life not as a collector, but as a witness, not as a prisoner, but as a lover of the eternal. And in this forgetting, you begin to remember. You remember that the only thing you ever truly owned was the awareness looking through your eyes. Everything else was borrowed. Everything else was passing. What remains is the bird free at last. The soul remembering its sky. Every person carries a bag of shadows, old mistakes, regrets, betrayals, disappointments. We drag this bag from year to year as if it were sacred. We replay scenes in our mind again and again, punishing ourselves for things that cannot be changed. We cling to these shadows because we think they define us. But Rumi reminds us that the past is not who you are. It is only a dream already gone. Think of how often you whisper to yourself, "I should have, I could have, if only." These phrases are chains. They tie you to moments that no longer exist. The body is here in the present, but the heart is still wandering in old corridors. And the more you wander there, the more life slips by unnoticed. Rumi said, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? The prison is memory. The bars are made of regret. The key is forgetting. Not forgetting as denial, but forgetting as release. The past cannot be rewritten, but it can be set down." Ask yourself, how many times has your past stopped you from stepping into your future? How many times have you refused love because you remembered old hurt? How many times have you silenced your own voice because you remembered old failure? This is the cost of memory. This is why forgetting is not weakness, but survival. Rumi often spoke of death before death. He was not speaking of the end of the body. He was speaking of the death of stories, the death of attachments, the death of the past. To die before you die is to let go of the shadows now, so that life can be lived fully before the final breath. Imagine your past as a book filled with chapters written long ago. Some chapters are painful, some are joyful, but all are finished. To forget is to close the book, to stop rereading the same sentences until the ink fades. You cannot live the next chapter while you cling to the last one. There is courage in forgetting. To forget means to face the unknown. The past is familiar, even if it is painful. We carry it like an old coat because we fear the cold air of freedom. But Rumi tells us that freedom is found only when the coat is dropped. Only when the shadows fall away can the light of the present enter. Think of a wound that once bled but now has healed. The scar remains, yes, but the pain is gone. To keep pressing on that scar, to keep reopening it, is to refuse the gift of healing. Forgetting is allowing the wound to stay closed. It is honoring the healing instead of worshiping the hurt. Every day offers you a choice. Carry the bag of shadows or set it down. Every breath is an invitation to release. The past is not a chain unless you hold it. Forgetting is the art of opening your hands. And when you forget, something beautiful happens. The weight lifts. The air clears. The heart begins to beat, not with old sorrow, but with new possibility. You begin to remember that you are not the sum of your mistakes. You are the space in which mistakes appeared and disappeared. You are not the pain. You are the witness of pain. And witnesses are free. From childhood, we are told that knowledge is power. We are trained to gather facts, to memorize lessons, to repeat information until our minds are crowded with noise. We measure our worth by what we know, by how clever our answers sound, by the weight of books on our shelves. Yet Rumi whispers another secret. True wisdom is not found in adding, but in forgetting. Rumi himself was once a respected scholar, a man of books and debate. His halls were filled with students. His words carried authority. But when Shams entered his life, everything changed. The flame of love burned through the pages. The proud crown of knowledge fell to the ground. In its place came silence, surrender, bewilderment. Rumi discovered that forgetting what he thought he knew opened the door to what cannot be learned, but only lived. Knowledge feeds the mind, but forgetting feeds the soul. The mind wants to define God, to describe love, to measure infinity. But the soul knows these things cannot be captured in words. The more you cling to definitions, the further you drift from the experience. To forget is to drop the dictionary and step into the dance. Think of the last time you tried to explain beauty. Perhaps the sunset painted the sky. Perhaps a song pierced your heart. You tried to describe it, but the words felt thin, powerless. That is the limit of knowledge. Now think of the moment itself, when you stood in silence, simply watching, simply listening. That is the power of forgetting. Rumi said, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment." Cleverness builds walls of certainty. Bewilderment tears them down. Cleverness clings to answers. Bewilderment opens to mystery. The path of forgetting is not the path of stupidity, but the path of awe. To live in awe is to live awake. We are afraid to forget knowledge because we fear being lost. But the truth is, we are already lost in too much knowing. We scroll, we read, we consume, and still the heart is hungry. Why? Because knowledge fills the head, not the soul. Forgetting allows the soul to breathe. To forget knowledge does not mean to despise learning. It means to remember that knowledge is only a tool, not a master. Use it when needed, but do not mistake it for truth. Truth is not information. Truth is presence. Truth is the silence between words, the breath before thought. Imagine standing at the ocean with a small cup in your hand. No matter how much water you collect, the ocean remains vast beyond measure. Knowledge is the cup. Forgetting is the moment you drop the cup and dive into the waves. This is why Rumi's poetry still burns today. He did not write from what he knew. He wrote from what he forgot. He wrote from the fire that consumed the scholar and revealed the lover. And he invites us to do the same. So let us be bold enough to loosen our grip on answers. Let us dare to forget the formulas, the labels, the clever defenses. Let us fall into the bewilderment that feels like emptiness, but is in truth overflowing. For in that forgetting lies the remembering of wisdom that cannot be taught. It can only be lived. Every day we play a role. At home we are one person, at work another, among friends yet another. We collect these roles like costumes, and soon we forget where the costume ends and where the true self begins. We introduce ourselves by saying, I am this, I am that, I belong here, I believe this. But Rumi asked us to pause. Are you truly those roles, or are you the witness behind them? Identity is a double-edged sword. It gives comfort, a sense of belonging, a map of where to stand in the world. Yet it also becomes a cage. You may call yourself strong and then feel shame when weakness visits. You may call yourself wise and then hide when ignorance is revealed. You may call yourself kind and then choke on your anger because it does not fit the mask. The more tightly you cling to an identity, the more fragile you become. Rumi said, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart. Identity resists this. Identity says, you must remain the same, you must defend the mask. But the soul is not a mask. The soul is movement, a tide that rises and falls, a flame that flickers and grows. Forgetting identity is the art of allowing this movement. Think of the times when life shattered your label. Perhaps you were known as successful, and then failure knocked. Perhaps you were seen as strong, and then illness humbled you. In those moments, forgetting was forced upon you. The mask cracked, and though it hurt, something real shone through. That is the gift hidden in the breaking of identity. The ego insists you must polish the crown of who you are. But the crown is heavy, and it cuts the skin of your forehead. Forgetting is the courage to set it down, to walk bareheaded under the sky, to be no one, and therefore to be everyone. Rumi taught that the self we defend so fiercely is not the self that survives. The false self crumbles with time. The true self remains untouched. To forget identity is not to lose yourself. It is to discover the self that cannot be lost. Imagine for a moment living one day without labels. No job title, no nationality, no religion, no status. Imagine speaking and listening without defending a role. Imagine breathing without the armor of identity. At first, it feels terrifying, but beneath the terror, there is lightness, freedom, relief. You discover that you do not need a mask to exist. You discover that presence itself is enough. Rumi wrote, "Be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers can grow where you are. The ground does not wear a mask. The ground does not defend an identity. It simply is. And because it is, life springs from it. In the same way, when you forget your rigid self, when you crumble, the soul blossoms. This is why forgetting identity is not a loss, but a rebirth. It is a falling apart that leads to wholeness. It is the stripping away of borrowed names so that the eternal name may rise, the name written not in letters, but in light. So let the mask slip. Let the crown fall. Let the false self dissolve. In that forgetting, you will remember the vastness that has always lived beneath the surface. You will remember that you are not the costume. You are the actor, and beyond even the actor, you are the stage on which the play unfolds. From the moment we wake in the morning, the mind begins its work of control. What must I do today? How can I avoid loss? How can I secure success? How can I shape the world so it bends to my will? We treat life as a battlefield where only constant control can keep us safe. Yet Rumi warned us that the very act of control is the source of our suffering. Look closely at control and you will see fear beneath it. Fear that without your grip, everything will fall apart. Fear that if you stop steering for even a moment, the ship will crash. But notice how exhausting this becomes. Your hands are never free. Your mind is never quiet. Your heart never rests. Control does not protect you. It drains you. Rumi said, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart." Control resists this. Control says, the season must stay the same. The sun must shine forever. The rain must never fall. But life is not a prisoner of your wishes. Life is a river that moves with its own rhythm. To forget control is to remember how to float. Think of the times when life shattered your plans. Perhaps a sudden loss, an unexpected meeting, a door closing just when you thought it would open. In those moments, you were forced to release control. And what happened? After the storm passed, you saw that life continued. Sometimes it even opened paths you never imagined. This is the gift of forgetting control. We cling to control because we believe it is strength. But true strength is surrender. To forget control is to step into trust. Not blind trust, not passive waiting, but deep trust that life is wiser than your plans, that the beloved is guiding you even through the dark. Imagine holding a bird too tightly. In your grip, the bird cannot breathe, cannot sing, cannot fly. To loosen your hand is to risk the bird leaving, yes, but it is also to give the bird freedom. And in that freedom, the song returns. Life is the same. Hold it too tightly and it withers. Forget control and it sings. Rumi wrote, "Be like melting snow. Wash yourself of yourself. Control is the ice that refuses to melt, the hardness that resists the sun. Forgetting is the thaw. It is the moment when you stop demanding, stop forcing, and simply allow. In that allowing, something vast appears. A river you did not create, but that carries you with gentle power. The paradox is clear. The more you try to control life, the more chaotic it feels. The more you release control, the more order you discover. Not the order of your plans, but the order of something deeper, something ancient, something divine. So what if you forgot control for a single day? What if you trusted the unfolding of each moment instead of trying to script it? You might feel fear at first, but beneath the fear lies peace. The peace of knowing you do not need to hold the sky in place. The peace of remembering that you are not the maker of the current. You are the swimmer carried by its flow. To forget control is to remember trust. To remember that behind every turn, every storm, every silence, the beloved is present, watching, guiding, whispering. And that whisper says, "Let go." Desire is a flame that never stops burning. Today it is for wealth, tomorrow for praise, the next day for the touch of a hand. We chase desire as if it were life itself, Yet the more we run, the further peace seems to drift. Rumi saw this with piercing clarity. He did not condemn desire, but he showed us its true face. Desire is a veil. Behind it waits the beloved. Every desire begins as a whisper. If I have this, then I will be complete. If I reach that, then I will rest. But the moment you grasp the object, the whisper shifts. It points to another thing, another dream, another promise. Desire is not satisfied by possession. Desire feeds on more desire. And so we run in circles, mistaking the chase for destiny. Rumi said, "What you seek is seeking you." This does not mean that every object you crave will fall into your hands. It means that the root of every desire is the longing for the beloved. You think you want gold, but beneath the gold, you want light. You think you want power, but beneath the power, you want freedom. You think you want a lover, but beneath the lover, you want union with the infinite. Desire is a mask worn by love. Forget desire, and you begin to see the face beneath. Forgetting does not mean denying your hunger or shaming your dreams. It means looking deeper. When desire says, "I want this," ask instead, what is the soul of this wanting? What truth hides behind this longing? The answer will always lead you back to love. Rumi spoke of the moth drawn to the flame. The moth does not circle the flame because it loves firewood. It circles because it longs for light. In the same way, your desires are circles around the flame of the beloved. The tragedy is that most never fly into the flame. They circle forever, mistaking the heat for the home. Imagine forgetting the surface of desire. Imagine no longer chasing object after object, but listening to the root of the ache itself. You would discover that the ache is holy, that the longing itself is the beloved calling from within. This is why Rumi told us, "Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames." He was not urging us to collect more desires, but to burn through them until only truth remains. The fire consumes the veil, and in that consuming the beloved shines. Desire whispers, "You are incomplete." Forgetting desire answers, "You are already whole." Desire says, "Run faster." Forgetting says, "Be still." Desire says, "More." Forgetting says, "Enough." And in enoughness the beloved appears, not as an object to be held, but as presence filling every breath. So let desire rise and fall like waves. Do not fear it, but do not worship it. Forget its surface, remember its source. Every longing is a thread pulling you home. Every hunger is a signal pointing to the feast already within you. To forget desire is not to be empty. It is to be full. Full of the beloved who has been waiting behind the veil all along. Every person you meet becomes a mirror. Some reflect your joy. Some reflect your wounds. Some reflect the parts of yourself you would rather not see. We think relationships are about the other person, but Rumi tells us they are about remembrance. Through the mirror of another face, you are given the chance to forget illusion and to remember truth. When love arrives, we think it belongs to the other. We say, "You make me whole, you give me light, you are my joy." But the light you see in them is the light of your own soul reflected back. Without knowing it, you are praising the beloved who hides within you both. The other is a doorway, not the destination. When pain arrives through another, we curse the mirror. We say, "You hurt me, you betrayed me, you ruined me." Yet even this pain is a reflection. It reveals the cracks already living inside you. It shows the wounds you have carried unseen. The betrayal is not only theirs, it is the echo of your own forgotten parts. Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." This is why relationships both bless and break us. They polish the mirror. They crack the armor. They tear open the veil so that the beloved may slip through. Forgetting in relationships means this: forgetting the illusion that the other is the source of your joy or your sorrow. They are the instrument, not the music. They are the glass, not the sun. To forget this illusion is to free both yourself and them. You no longer demand that they complete you. You no longer fear that they can destroy you. You begin to see them as fellow travelers, carrying mirrors just as you do, reflecting light and shadow as needed for the journey. Think of the times when someone left your life and you thought the light was gone. Yet slowly, quietly, you discovered the light had never left. It was always inside you. The other had only pointed to it. Their departure forced you to remember the source. This is the secret gift hidden in loss. Rumi compared the soul to a reed flute, cut from its source, crying out in song. Every relationship is part of that song. Some notes are tender, some are sharp, but all are music. To forget is to stop clinging to one note and hear the melody as a whole. Imagine looking at every face not as separate, but as the beloved peering through countless masks. Imagine hearing every voice as the beloved calling in different tones. Imagine even in conflict recognizing the mirror, seeing not an enemy, but a teacher. This is the art of forgetting in relationships. When you forget the illusion of separation, you remember union. You remember that the love you feel for another is the love of the beloved flowing through you both. You remember that every embrace, every heartbreak, every glance is the divine playing with itself in infinite forms. So let the mirrors come and go. Let them reflect what they must. Do not cling. Do not curse. Do not worship. Simply see. For in seeing you, forget illusion and remember truth. You remember that behind every mirror, there is only one face, the face of the beloved. There is a moment in every conversation when words fall short. A pause arrives, heavy and alive, and in that pause, something deeper speaks. Most people rush to fill the silence, afraid of what it holds. But Rumi called silence the language of God. To forget noise is to remember this language. Words are useful, but they are also walls. They point toward truth, but they are not truth themselves. To say the word fire is not to feel its heat. To say the word love is not to burn in its flame. To say the word God is not to stand in the presence of the beloved. Words are signs, not destinations. Forgetting words is walking beyond the sign into the field itself. Rumi told us, there is a voice that does not use words. Listen, that voice is not heard by the ears. It is heard by the heart. It speaks through stillness, through breath, through the pulse of life itself. You will not find it in noise, but in quiet. You will not find it in argument, but in surrender. Think of the times when silence overwhelmed you. Sitting under a night sky so vast that speech felt meaningless. Holding the hand of someone you loved so deeply that words would only weaken the truth. Standing at the edge of grief when no language could carry the weight. Those moments were not empty. They were full. They were sacred. They were the beloved speaking without sound. To forget words is not to despise them. It is to see through them. It is to know that behind every sentence is a silence, and that silence is more real than any syllable. Words decorate life. Silence reveals it. Rumi lived this paradox. He was a poet who poured out thousands of verses, yet he declared silence the highest form of speech. Why? because every poem was only a finger pointing. He knew that once you reached the truth, the finger must disappear. Imagine living one day with less speech. Imagine listening more than you speak. Imagine resting in the pause between thoughts. You might feel unease at first, but soon you would hear a new rhythm, a deeper music. The music of the beloved humming in the background of every moment. Silence does not argue. Silence does not divide. Silence holds everything with equal grace. In silence, joy and sorrow are not enemies but companions. In silence, questions do not demand answers. They dissolve. In silence, the self does not need to prove anything. It simply exists. This is why forgetting noise is remembering peace. The world will always shout. The mind will always chatter. But beneath the noise, there is a stillness untouched. That stillness is you. That stillness is God wearing your breath. So let the words fall. Let the sentences fade. Trust the silence that remains. For in that silence you will hear what no tongue can speak. You will hear the beloved calling you home. Everything you love will one day change. The house you build will crumble. The body you dress will wrinkle. The faces you cherish will fade into memory. Most of us try to fight this truth. We clutch at what is slipping. We pray for time to pause. We pretend permanence where none exists. Yet Rumi tells us that impermanence is not an enemy. It is the very teacher that guides us back to the eternal. Think of a flower blooming. Its beauty pierces you because you know it will not last. If the flower were eternal, you would pass it by without wonder. Its short life is its gift. In the same way, every smile, every kiss, every breath is precious because it is temporary. Forgetting permanence allows you to remember awe. Rumi said, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart. Just as the earth shifts from spring to winter, so too does the soul move through birth, growth, decay, and rebirth. To cling to one season is to suffer. To forget permanence is to dance with the rhythm of change. Impermanence strips away illusion. It reminds us that nothing outside can ever be truly ours. Lovers leave, bodies fail, wealth dissolves. At first, this feels cruel, but then you realize that what remains after everything falls is what was real all along. The beloved does not fade. The soul does not die. Presence cannot be lost. Impermanence burns away what is false so that truth may shine. Imagine if nothing ever changed. Imagine an endless day without night, a song without end, a body that never grew or aged. It would not be life. It would be prison. The sweetness of existence lies in its fleeting nature. We are moved to love more deeply because we know time is short. We are pushed to awaken because we sense the clock ticking. Impermanence is not punishment. It is invitation. Rumi often compared the self to a guest house. Every day new visitors arrive, joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and grief. None stay forever. All are passing guests. To forget permanence is to welcome them without fear, to bow to each visitor knowing they will leave, and to trust that each one carries a hidden gift. This is why forgetting permanence is the path to peace. The world becomes lighter when you stop clinging. Your hands open. Your heart softens. You begin to live not in fear of loss, but in gratitude for presence. Every moment becomes enough because you no longer demand it last forever. So let the seasons turn. Let the faces age. Let the flowers bloom and wither. In forgetting permanence, you remember eternity. You remember that beyond the changing forms, there is a love that does not change, a silence that does not fade, a presence that holds you even as everything else slips away. And when you remember this, impermanence is no longer sorrow. It is beauty. It is grace. It is the beloved whispering through every falling leaf. I was here. I am here. I will always be here. The ego is a restless king who sits on a fragile throne. It demands attention. It craves recognition. It insists on being right. Every wound you carry, every conflict you feed, every mask you defend is rooted in this king. Yet Rumi reminds us that the ego is not your truth. It is only smoke covering the fire of the soul. To forget ego is to remember who burns beneath. The ego whispers, I am the center of the world. But notice how fragile this center is. One insult and it shakes. One failure and it crumbles. One moment of being ignored and it cries for proof. The ego is not strength. It is weakness pretending to be strong. And still we polish it, guard it, worship it, as if this false crown will save us. Rumi said, try to accept being ground, be crumbled, so new life can grow. The ego resists this. It says, never crumble, never bend, never bow. But the truth is only when the shell cracks can the seed sprout. Only when the ego dissolves can the soul awaken. Think of the times when your pride kept you from love, when your need to be right silenced your ability to listen, when your hunger for praise left you empty even after applause. This is the hunger of ego, a hunger that never ends. Forgetting ego is the only cure. But forgetting ego is not destruction by force. If you fight the ego directly, it only grows stronger. Forgetting is different. Forgetting is seeing the ego for what it is, a temporary costume, a mask made of fear and desire. You do not need to kill it. You only need to stop mistaking it for yourself. Rumi compared the ego to a candle burning in daylight. In the sun of truth, the small flame of ego is meaningless. It flickers, it vanishes, it leaves no trace. To forget ego is to turn toward that sun, to let its light make your little fire unnecessary. Imagine speaking without the need to impress. Imagine giving without the need to be thanked. Imagine loving without the need to be loved back. This is life beyond ego. This is life as pure presence. The ego will resist. It will cry, without me, you are nothing. But Rumi teaches the opposite. Without ego, you are everything. You are not a drop trying to be the ocean. You are the ocean wearing the form of a drop. So let the false king step down. Let the fragile throne crumble. Forget the crown of pride and remember the humility of the ground. For it is only on the ground that seeds grow. Only in humility that truth blossoms. Only in surrender that the beloved is found. Inside every human heart, there is an ache that never quiets. We try to feed it with success, with love, with possessions, with recognition, yet the hunger remains. This ache is not weakness. It is the sacred fire. Rumi called it longing, and he taught that longing is the bridge between you and the beloved. Longing can feel like emptiness, but it is not empty at all. It is full of direction. It points you beyond the world of surfaces toward the hidden source. Without longing, you would fall asleep in comfort. With longing, you are shaken awake. You are reminded again and again that nothing in this world can finally satisfy, and that reminder is a blessing, though it often feels like pain. Rumi said, "The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers do not finally meet somewhere. They are in each other all along. Longing is not a search for something outside. It is the soul calling itself home. Think of the times when you felt restless, even while surrounded by beauty. The party was full of laughter, yet something inside you sighed. The job gave you money, yet something inside you ached. The relationship gave you comfort, yet something inside you longed for more. That more is not excess. That more is truth. To forget the shallow satisfactions of the world is to remember the depth of longing. Forgetting does not kill the ache. It makes space for it. It allows the fire to burn clean instead of being smothered by distractions. When longing is free, it guides you like a compass pointing always toward the beloved. Many fear longing because it hurts. But Rumi reminds us that longing is the wound where light enters. It is the hollow flute through which the divine breath plays music. If you silence the ache, you silence the song. If you run from the ache, you run from God. Imagine carrying your longing not as a burden, but as a lantern. Each ache becomes a flame that lights your path. Each sigh becomes a prayer. Each tear becomes a river carrying you closer to the sea. This is the art of transforming pain into guidance. Longing is proof that you belong to something greater. The bird longs for the sky because it was born to fly. The wave longs for the ocean because it was never separate. In the same way, your longing proves that you are already bound to the beloved. You would not hunger for what you did not already know. So let the longing burn. Do not numb it. Do not fear it. Do not hide it. Forget the lies that say you should be satisfied with little truths. Remember the vast fire inside. That fire is the beloved calling through your ribs, whispering through your breath, pulling you home. There is a place beyond stories, beyond names, beyond fear and pride, beyond even longing itself. Rumi called it the field. He said, "Out beyond ideas of right and wrong there is a field. I will meet you there. This is the place where forgetting is complete and remembering begins. In this field, you are no longer the mask you defended, no longer the roles you played, no longer the shadows you carried. You have forgotten them all, and yet you have not become nothing. You have become everything. You are the silence that holds the song, the space that carries the stars, the presence that has no edge. Forgetting has led you here. Forgetting possessions, forgetting identities, forgetting wounds, forgetting the noise of the world. And in that forgetting you have remembered. You have remembered the beloved who was with you all along. You have remembered that every desire was a veil, every relationship a mirror, every sorrow a doorway, every silence a teacher. You have remembered that you are not seeking love. You are love remembering itself. This is not an ending. It is a beginning. To live from this remembering is to walk through the world as a flame that warms but does not burn. It is to move through each day with open hands, seeing the beloved in every glance, hearing the beloved in every sound, feeling the beloved in every breath. And now, my friend, if these words have stirred something in you, if you have felt the whisper of the beloved in them, then carry that whisper further. Let it reach others who are also aching, also longing, also waiting for remembrance. Share this flame by leaving a sign of your presence here. Offer a like as a gesture of gratitude. Subscribe so we may continue this journey together. And let your heart guide others to this path as well, not as a duty, not as a command, but as an offering. For every step you take in love becomes a light for another. And perhaps, in some quiet moment, Another soul will hear these words and remember too. So let us bow to the forgetting that freed us, to the remembering that awakened us, and to the beloved who is the source of both. And now, walk gently, walk truthfully, walk as one who has remembered the field beyond.